Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Allie with amariespeaks.com, and today I'm going to be making a video that is geared towards intermediate level or alchemy level shadow work. This is not a video for beginners. It's not meant to be introductory, and it is most certainly not meant to just jump right into. So if you are new to shadow work, if you're new to my channel, and the title or shadow work in general, sparks your curiosity, or you're wondering more about it, that's great, that's awesome. I would strongly suggest to take a look at the videos in the description on my Comprehending Consciousness series for shadow work, because that is a quick 15-minute video, and it really goes over kind of like the generalities, what shadow work is, why we do it, who does it, the misconceptions around it, how the mainstream puts it off, and what the real truth behind it is. So if you're totally new to shadow work, please go and check that video first. I'm not going to go over any of that kind of preliminary stuff in this video, but it's crucial. It's crucial information. So I cannot stress enough to people to please understand the what's the word? I'm blanking. I don't know, to understand the stakes that are, that are on your bet here, so to speak, The stakes are really high when we go into shadow work. So, self-assessment is crucial beforehand. I'm just going to say that. If you aren't new to shadow work and you didn't see the video that I put out about how to get your light right, I highly suggest watching that before this as well, because like I said, I'm going to really try my hardest to keep myself reeled in and on topic in this video, and to just offer these intermediate alchemy level practices, visualizations, and concepts here in this video for people who are already in the working, already have that foundational space created, and they already understand unconditional love and working from the heart center and empowering your light and that kind of thing, because those are like prerequisites to shadow work, basically. And I go into that in depth. If you're curious about that, if you don't believe that's true, or you feel like you need more of an explanation behind that, go check out my video, because I talked for almost an hour about my personal perspective and my angle at coming at shadow work. So really here at the beginning, I just wanted to give a quick disclaimer and really impress upon anybody who's watching this video the importance of getting your light right and doing some light work before you really get into shadow work. So, if you aren't new, and you've been, through the beginner's layers, you have really committed yourself to daily type of practices, you are seeing some of like the openness, the positivity that comes in with doing the bit of like house cleaning work that comes with the beginner stages. We get into a place sometimes where it can feel superficial or really surface level up there in the beginner space, to where maybe you do the first couple of things and they feel really great, but then they you get used to it and it doesn't feel like as great anymore. It just feels mediocre, and then like negativity starts to slip in, and then you're like, oh, why am I even doing this kind of work? Why am I even picking at all these little things of myself. I'm making myself feel worse, you know? Um, that's a real side street, a dead end, so to speak, off of the beginner's level loop, which so many people get stuck over there in, and I'm speaking from experience, and certainly have done that myself, you know? However, if you are moving towards the intermediate level now, you know, you're realizing that the end goal isn't just to feel better. The end goal isn't just cleaning all the shadows up and you're full of light. Every day is perfect. There's never a disturbance, or you're never upset, you know. That kind of honeymoon stage fades in the beginner's level. And it calls you to make a commitment to yourself, a deep dedication to self-evolution. And if you see it and you raise your hand, you say, I accept the challenge, well, then you're in an intermediate level and you're ready to get into these things deeper. Plenty of people don't see the challenge and they get lost in the pity party and they don't want to do the things that feel bad because they just make them feel worse. And they're not being empowered by the excavating work, you know. They're just seeing a big hole. And yeah, so I don't want to get too tied up in that again. Like I said before, if you are a beginner, please go watch my previous videos, or you know, get on a social media of your choice or on a search engine of your choice and type in shadow work and go see what others are talking about, and get all those different sources and insights and advice, you know, that you can get out there before you try to tackle it internally. However, you know, if you're ready to tackle it internally, if you've raised your hand, if you know, okay, doesn't feel great, but in this combing through, yeah, the knots hurt a little and it's tangled and uncomfortable, but like the freeness that's coming afterwards is so worth it. I want more of that, you know. That's where we really can be accepting into this intermediate level of shadow work. And that can, you know, be weeks, years, who knows, your whole lifetime. You just be at, you know, this intermediate working. Maybe you get there near the end of your years, you know. Everybody's path is different. Everybody's journey is different here. The intermediate level is really, in my eyes, seen as a beneficial working that is very segmented. It's very structured. It comes with a time of charging light, feeling bright, examining shadows to fullness, capacity at the time, and then you know, we offer service to the shadow, and if they take it, we do the work. If they don't take it, we revoke consent of offering service for now. And or even if they do take it and we do the working, right, as we're done, we thank them, and we also no longer offer our service of light in that way when we're done with the working. And then after, you know, we've decided that the working is done, we come into rebounding, relaxing, restoring, recharging again, and then bam, we're ready to do more work, you know. In the intermediate level, it's very segmented, it's very day and night, and it's very clear the times that we are charged and energized and ready to do work, and then the times that, you know, we are depleted and down and either overwhelmed with the shadow, overtaken by the shadow, exhausted by the shadow. And then that brings in the resting period. But, and I will say, this also in the cycle opens us up for the gateway of that dark night of the soul, of that real rock bottom periods that definitely happen between these peaks and troughs and peaks and troughs. So, again, impressing the importance of self-assessment, of understanding where you're at, not as a way to look down or self-criticize yourself or say, like, you should be at some other place. It's more of a... oh, sorry, I got to tickle my throat. change the seasons here. I have my natural detoxing going on for fall. It's like tickly throat. No, sorry guys. But yeah, when the intermediate work is very segmented and we feel these things, and like we have to really work at charging light up and embodying it, doing some light work, you know, having our outward torus flowing and bright, and then examining shadows of ourselves, or doing some kind of visualizations, guided meditations, some kind of energetic alchemy, you know, when we're really charged. And then accepting and noticing when you're feeling depleted, when that work's coming to completion, and detaching yourself from it and allowing rest and recharge to come in. And the intermediate working is all self-taught, it's all self-learning. And so you have to learn your cycles, you have to learn what your energy gas tank kind of is doing, you know, how to read it, how to feel that you're getting close to empty. And so this intermediate level, you know, like I said, it can last years, weeks, it could be your whole life. It's the major marker, I will say, is that at first in the intermediate level, real conscious awareness is needed to kind of sense your cycles and to do the work. And super beneficial practices as well can be like journaling through these things, writing out what the experience, writing out the insights, the epiphanies that you've gotten during these practices. And I'm going to go over in just a minute like these kind of visualization techniques and practices, things that are like my personal favorites. You know, there's so many. The options are infinite out there, and they will be uniquely special to you, and they will resonate in just like little niche ways, synchronicities, and little blurps of faith kind of things that just like, yes, that ties to me so well. Oh, that's so personal. Oh, that like, can't even believe that this is that, because I felt that the whole time. Or I had this notion of this was the way to do it, and wow, they just said it just in that way, you know? When we get into intermediate work and we start to listen to our intuition, get into imagination space, work with our shadows in that kind of space, they bring in solutions and insights that just you didn't think of before, you know? And that comes with the working. And intermediate's all about that, getting a feel for it, understanding the flow, understanding your flow. And pretty soon, like I said in the last video, with the practices and techniques, you know, this intermediate level will turn to an alchemist level, or what I'm calling like alchemy, once that cycle starts to smooth itself out. Once it's starting to bleed into all present moments. Once you're starting to see all of the intricate commingling of the shadow and light. And I gave an example in the last video about like it's dark night. To intermediate level, it's day and night, and there's a lot of duality and contrast, and it's a very clean cut, or very opposed, you know, like it's sometimes not clean cut, and so I don't want to give an impression like you should know what your shadows are talking about, or you should know where they're coming from, because that kind of working can be super intricate and full of deceptions and shadow and false reflections and things like that, delusions and all kinds of tied up loops of nonsense. That kind of working can be really intricate and really detailed to get through. But what I'm saying is that the light shadow work seems like dark and light, day and night. And then as we're smoothing through, we're adding all types of these like experiences and little data points, little informational things in all of these times in the cycles. We see it bleeding into more of like, okay, I see dawn approaching, dawn coming, you know, early morning, mid-afternoon, bright sun, and then I can tell when it's turning into late afternoon and evening sun, and then dusk, and then night is falling, and then it is really dark night. But then through the dark night, you always see like dawn approaching. You can see that shading of the night changing, you know. That's where we get into the alchemist state of mind and start to really marinate, I guess, in your own workings and in all your own practices, and you really start to get a good feel and a good understanding of what those things mean to you. Because really, like, we're the star of our show here, you know. Your light, your shadows, your theater, it's your backstage, you're the star of the show, you're the backup, you know, you're the understudy too, you're the director. And the more intermediate work we do with all of these kind of major players, and I was talking about that at the end of the practices video, right? The major players of our shadows, these personalities or personas that we sort of identify in ourselves, and we notice, you know, causing some havoc or disruptions, you know. We start to work with and embody all of those roles, and you realize throughout the whole play, you know, which role you're embodying to make the whole show go, and you really like all of them, and you're really the people in the audience at the same time, you know. It becomes more fluid and a more open ground where acceptance and understanding are really commonplace, and you don't need to work at that so much anymore at that intermediate to alchemy level, where we see it bleeds through into all day. And I mean, and I talked about this in the original video too, about that alchemist level of being in this constant, eternal energy shifting, alchemizing, changing, osmosis type of morphing that we do, right? And that the alchemy level is all about, you know. It's not that the lighter you get, the less disruptions come in, or the less dark is there. It's actually quite reverse. More shadows appear, and more shadows want to be seen, more shadows want your light, greater, thicker shadows approach, because your energetic magnet, so to speak, your polarity, right, is a larger charge, and so you're attracting shadows of larger charges, because it knows you can handle the work. It knows you can offer an omnipresent light that it is seeking, right? And so it's a burden and a blessing all at once when we get into this working. And that's why, you know, these false impressions of finish lines and end games and rest states are really hurtful and deter many from ever making it through the intermediate level. And maybe I'll make a pitfalls. I think I will. I'll make like a secondary pitfalls kind of video where we can go over liar loops and common pitfalls and distractions and the lassos from the 3D matrix and all these kind of things that I have encountered, worked through, and classified here, my own kind of library setting, I guess. Yeah, so now that I've given a little introduction here, I want to go through the practices and offer these kind of like techniques, visualizations, little ideas of workings that are templates that feel free to take and incorporate if they resonate with you. I will do some linking below of some videos, guided meditations, maybe some discussions and stuff from channels that I really appreciate their work and have really given me great insights and provided wonderful workings for me, you know, over the years. So check the descriptions or the comments if it's YouTube, you know, maybe I'll put them in the comments to find those links and channels. So I just want to quickly go over, in case you didn't watch the practices and techniques video, I was at the end going over these major players of the shadow. And this really is so personal, right? These caricatures or these personas that we create and modify and kind of keep within ourselves, you know, like little Barbies in the box that have like their little triggers, their little traumas, the mask that they wear, right? Since we're a collective body of human beings here, right, and we are all one, we tend to face these same kind of categorical figureheads that I'm going to call the major players of the shadow. And so this is the ego, which most people are pretty familiar with. That's kind of that self-centered survival of the fittest. I'll take what's mine at expense of all others just to make sure I survive, or I get what I need, or I see the best, you know, this solar plexus I am center, which is crucial to balancing, which is crucial to self-awareness and self-love. But to keep it in check and keep it in balance is what the working is about, right? And they become major players of our shadow when we don't acknowledge them, when we, you know, put blinders onto them, or we subconsciously feed them with things, you know. The ego can become a real big problem for lots of people, right? Another one is the inner child, and that can be a huge problem, you know, for so many people. We have the inner mother or the inner critic, the one who's always cutting down things and telling you it should have been better and it could have been this and it should have been that kind of framing is the inner mother, or that toxic feminine energy of our sacred feminine side, right? And we have our inner father or our sacred masculine side, and that can look like, you know, the restrictor, the authoritative tyrant who's like my way or the highway kind of strictness about it, right? Then we also have these wounded versions of ourselves that we kind of flash freeze as is, right? And like just store them or save them for a multitude of reasons, right? Now these wounded versions of ourselves could be specific to stored past traumas, actual events, small or large, you know. It could be real dramatic and life-changing trauma, or it could be really small little things that just happen to really have real sharp edges to them. And so we've boxed them up, too scared to touch them or look at them, right? It can be even things like old personas or characters that we put on in a social setting. You know, either whether it's like peer, school, a friend's sort of realm, or it's in your work life, your career, in your internal relationships, possibly, you know, masks we put on in front of others so that we're seen in a certain way. You know, so many people struggle with that, and so many people have these kind of like locked up personas that or masks that like they put on when they go to certain places or are a part of a certain system. And another thing that can be really big is the roles of the abuser and victim within ourselves. And this I like to see as almost an egoic kind of thing, but even deeper than that, it can be conflict with the higher self or your source connection. Because, and I'll get into this in a later time, and I've talked and blogged so much about this, like, creator mindset and how we can create freedom or slavery, and the tyranny of creating co-creations that lock us into these states of tyranny where we are forced to be micromanagers of things and forced to be seen as the oppressor of some other portion of ourselves or something that we've made or created, you know. It locks us in this cycle of abuse victim. And lots of people can get really, really, really stuck in that. So yeah, that's pretty much like the major players of the shadow that I see that really can be templates, sort of, that you can put your individual shadows into and kind of align them into categories to notice them better, to see where they're really coming from with more ease, right? And that's really like what that intermediate work in that time is all about, you know, getting to know them, getting to listen and hear them and see them for what they are, right? So now I'll go over the techniques and practices and visualizations. And keep in mind that these can be used for all of those major players at different times, at different ways. Some of them work better, like for specific trauma events. Some of them work better to work with your inner child. Some work better to work with, you know, your ego. Some are great for your heart center. But I like to just give, you know, generalities and keep it fluid and loose so that if you see a different working for it, you see a different opportunity or potential, then go for it. Apply it in that direction or with that persona or whatever resonates with you is basically like what I'm trying to ensure that I promote in this video, you know. I don't want to make it seem like this has to be done for this shadow, and if you do this for this shadow, it's going to work. And if you get with your inner child and do these 5 sets of guided meditations in a row, your inner child is healed. You know, that is not the kind of approach or promises or anything that I'm trying to offer here. You know. So, major themes that go along with shadow work are these concepts of changing. Not forcing change, but change as in morphing, as in a cyclic change, as in organic change, right? As in a seeking of homeostasis change. Changing, releasing, alchemizing, right? Healing, transforming, transmuting is another great one, right? These sort of chemical processes that we can really understand the working that's happening here, right? We're having shadow, we're having light, and we are using these two to help with, as co-creators, to seek the solutions that are there and benefit both of them, that common middle ground, right? And I don't want to get too, I'm going to get back into the importance of light work and shadow work, and I need to draw myself back in and not get on a rant about that. But, you know, we're in the intermediate and alchemy levels, so we're really, really understanding and embodying this unconditional love, the acceptance, and yeah. So, different ways that we can offer this energetic healing, changing, releasing alchemy, right? These different practices can be as simple as taking time in meditation to sit with one major player, or one event, or one person, and really just offering that unconditional love space of support. Whatever you need to say, I hear you. Whatever you need to rant and rave about, if you need to scream, if you need to cry, if you need to, you know, rage it out, or whatever it is, we sit and offer space to them to do that. Not in a way to tell them that this should be done differently, or why do they feel like that, or change it right now, you know, no, just to do it. And like I talked about initially in that other video, you know, when we're super aggravated in traffic or whatever, it gets to a point where like your intense emotion peaks, and then it fades down, and your shadow's intense whatevers will peak as well, and they will fade down. And, that fading down is now the point where we can do a little bit of light work. We can choose to either just offer that calming support space where after, they've ranted and raved, we just sit there too and just say, hey, we're still here. We heard you, yeah. We don't have solutions right now. I'm not asking anything of you at this point. I heard you. Thank you for speaking. Thank you for your contribution to my thought world. And that could be the end of it for the day. And you know what I mean? That could be the end of it for the working with that major player for right now. And you can go back and work through and have conversations and dialogues at a later time with that shadow to assess why, offer some solutions or workings or whatever. Also in this space and time where we're holding space and we've come past the peak of the emotion with the shadow, we can say, hey, what have we learned here? What did this teach me? Let's hear your wisdom through here, right? If we were approached with X, Y, and Z again, shadow or inner child or whatever, what would you have done? What would your solution be? And let them speak it and offer it. And maybe it's even like a worst case thing that like your whole logical mind, your regular people all around here would never go for. Maybe it's your shadow being like, we should have smashed that guy's head in. We should have rammed our car right into the person in front of us or whatever. Just because you're allowing your shadow to speak that out and hear it doesn't mean that you gotta go do it. Doesn't mean you're condoning their choice. It doesn't mean that you're okaying it or going along with it. You're hearing it. You're not scared of it. You're not being triggered by it. You're not saying, oh yeah, you're 100% right. You can say, oh, I feel that, but let's look at the bigger picture. Or, well, we're not in that situation anymore. We don't have our opportunity to bash that guy's face in anymore. So what do we do now? Because we're still here. We're still trapped in that old experience that we wish we had gotten out of in a different way. And just giving that space of working to the shadow, it can bleed in and offer in its own solutions, different ideas, different angles. This is unique working, and each shadow is unique as well. So I don't want to put too many resolutions or circumstances or whatever onto it, because like I said, I want to leave these as general templates for everybody. Another thing you can do, when you're working with those major players in this sort of meditation technique, is offering light to it after. And I talked about that a lot in a blog where I wrote about offering service to the shadow. And so I'll link that below too, in case you're ready for that kind of work or you're triggered by what I'm talking about, offering service to the shadow. Check it out, because what I'm speaking of here is heart-centered service to others, positively aligned offering of space and service. It's not telling that shadow, oh yeah, let's get back in the car and go find that guy and smash into him, or allowing a self-pity wallowing to get down into a shadow and then you just don't see any other way out or something. Shadow work, it's very difficult, and it can be, it's a double-edged sword, right? So it's very, very crucial, as I've said so many times, right, that we really do a lot of self-assessment during this, and that we really try to stay grounded and work from our heart centers so that we can align with our truth, with our personal orientation, and what we want to feel aligned with. So yeah, that would be kind of practice type 1, is like a meditative state to quiet your mind and sit with your shadows. Another thing that can work really well for releasing and healing shadows is in this intermediate level. Once you've gotten a feel for like your biofield, your energetic body, what your individual resonance is, you can really start to bring in imagination space, intuition, and visualization to start to see your energetic field. And it's beautifully unique to each one of us, the way that you choose. And you can choose to see it in different ways every time, you know. But when you work to allow your imagination to sketch out what your energetic body looks like, what your meridians, your chakras, maybe what your torus looks like, you know, of your astral body even, or your etheric body, what your spirit looks like, you know, like allow those imagination spaces to build colorful caricatures of those things, right? Because when we do that and we allow that space of uniqueness of us and we embody it, when there's infringements or constraining things or, you know, thought energies trying to wake their way in, it becomes a lot more clear that they're external and that they're not part of us, right? And it promotes more honest and transparent energetic working, which is ideally really what we're trying to do when we're doing shadow work and light work, right? We're trying to be as honest and transparent with ourselves, with our faults, with our affinities, with our strengths, you know, with our mistakes, with things that we've done wrong or whatever. Everything. We're trying to lay everything out on the table, see it for what it is in shadow work. And I mean, it should bleed into all of your life and in general and all your relationships and everything. You should really try to be embodying that, to be as present in the moment and as honest with yourself and those around you as you can. And that's really like that, getting into that alchemy level, right? Where we're just continually doing this work, where it's more of a symbiotic osmosis kind of exchange happening. And also, I'll say, when you get into that space, you can choose to see or recognize or feel or sense blockages, disturbances, leaks out. What else do we usually see them as? Stored or staled, blocked energy, compartmentalized things, little boxes with locks on them. You know, you could see an obstacle course inside of you, or you could see it like laser beams, and you've got to like get through them, you know, and you could see certain areas where they're like clumped up together, and then you're like, oh, I've got something there, let's work to release it. It's not always even about knowing what the trigger is or about knowing what the shadow is or a certain specific event or anything. It could be feelings, emotions. You could have like a strange, real hard chest pain all the time, and you're just like, why do I have that? But when you get to work with your energetic body and maybe some kind of beautiful, inspirational vision comes to you, like with me personally, I was guided by, you know, beautiful teacher, Sarita, who I'll link her below, to see the body like trees and a jungle and branches and vines and brambles and thorn bushes and, you know, garden even inside there, you know, and I was able to see and sense like a lot of these stiffnesses inside of me that were just energetic or emotional that like my logical mind didn't recognize or was kind of like had blinders on around. And smoothing through that working, it really helped a lot of physical things that I had, blockages going on that I really didn't even expect, I guess, is kind of I didn't have an expectation of the multitude of levels here, and yeah, being able to visualize my body, my physical vessel, my energetic body, the etheric, all these layerings of different workings, and allowing them to come through with their own ideas of what they look like inside there and feel like, you know. It's really, really it's really helpful. It's really intricate and unique too. And like those are the solutions that we're really looking for. I feel like, especially when you get into this like intermediate level, you really have to put that extra little personal note on it, because that's the intention is, you know, it's internal. It's the work you're doing just for yourself. Yeah, so you can work with your body's infinite intelligence to allow it to show you where there's some blockages or hard spots or whatever. Now, I want to talk about quickly these kind of healing visualizations, different categories of ways that you can look at cleansing, clearing out yourself. Some of these things have great guided meditations that go along with them. Some of these things, you could just take on your own and use them in your own meditative practices. And others, are a little bit more structured to where, you would need to follow like an actual shaman or a guide or a hypnosis therapist or something. So some of these visualizing practices can be seeing source light or its rays or light beams, golden and silver, however you choose to feel it, coming down from source and seeing you and shining into your body vessel. You can see, the rays of light bringing in nutrition, clearing, brightening up, providing extra light for you to see what's going on, healing warmth, support, just that feeling of being seen, being highlighted, being in the spotlight, being grateful for that feeling. You can see source light as ultimate wisdom or truth being cast down inside of you and allow that to take you into new epiphanies and offer new information to you. You can also use Mother Earth in a similar way and resonate with her energy, offer up your desires, your wants and needs to her. You can see yourself soaking down into Mother Earth, into the soil, and feeling the nutrients and her support in that way. That can be really helpful. You can envision floating in water, sacred water, a sacred pool, the ocean of Mother Earth, the void, the blackness of the ether. You could take it into Mother Earth's womb if you like that idea, and envision yourself floating in her womb. And yeah, when we're doing these things, you're relaxing into the visualization. You're allowing, like a sponge, to just soak in whatever kind of information that you're getting, with a very relaxed and open view, so that you can bring in new information from your intuition and from this connection to source, right? Another really helpful envisionment can be the violet flame. Lots of people love that as like a cleansing fire, detox, a clearing out, a sacred removal of toxins, or a reset of kind, to really like blast it out and start new. Some people like to call in angels and saints to help with that violet flame, or another great thing to use is like a sword, and you can cast your own sword. You can ask Source to help you envision and define and make your sword. Or if you're not there yet and you like the archangels, you could call in Archangel Michael with his sword and ask him to cut away these entanglements or infringements that are on you or that you're sensing or feeling. That the sword cutting is a huge one that works really well for a lot of people. There's another view that I really love, which is embodying this kind of like, it's sort of like source light, but seeing it more of like an amber honey thick substance that kind of seeps in, and it can get into every crevice and every pore, and just like honey does, right? It's like it pulls out, it draws out toxins, and it clumps them inside its encasements, and like amber too. You could see it like amber, right? And you could see it pulling out these things, or shadows, or encompassing them and hardening around them. Some people, you know, and those visions have worked for me, and it's worked wonders for other people as well. Another great thing that works, that is a whole process. You can use it with all the different major players, but I feel is crucial to start with the self. Just start with the self is inner child meditation, where you envision or remember yourself at like 2, 3, 5, 7, whatever. You can do all different ages. You can do different times. If you have childhood trauma and stuff, this works wonders. See that state, that child, and go give it a hug and love it and say, we survived. You are so strong. You have potential. I see you. I love you. And it can be real intricate personal things too that that just, you know, as at that age, at that child, you needed to hear, or you needed to know. You know, you can see yourself like an angel, or you could see your quote unquote higher self, right, and go into the past and like a hologram, sort of implant yourself, your higher self, down there with your child at this event, and know it's there, a guiding positive, and infusing purpose, lessons, and yeah, like moral, I don't know, morals isn't the right kind of word for it, but like when you know something is happening for a reason, right? Faith, trust, love, unconditional love, right? Get in there and highlight that scene in your mind with that. That create, and that can be working done over multiple times and different ways, depending on like what you're dealing with. Another huge thing is once you get comfortable with your own inner child, and once you have that light where you can really love yourself, you can do that same practice with the child vision of like your mother, of your father, of maybe your direct intimate partner, if you've got a lot of things to work through with them, or even with people who've harmed you or done bad things to you. You know, you could go back and see them as a child and just send them some love and let them know, you know, you are not your choices. You're not evil. You're not bad. You know, you're here to play a role, and thank you for your role. I learned X, Y, and Z from you. Thank you. And while I'm speaking of thank yous, gratitude, again, gratitude practices, feeling thanks, reflecting back on lessons learned, on, you know, just feeling feeling like as grateful as you can. It can be very healing, but it can also be very hard. You know, forgiveness is a huge thing that I don't see forgiveness as shadow work, actually, and some people really do. And forgiveness can get tied up in a lot of these things that traumas and events and external people. You know, we think we have to forgive them, or the things are about them and stuff. It's like shadow work is. It's kind of like an exterior thing. Forgiveness is actually light work, and forgiveness is a heart-centered practice of love. You know, it's a charging thing, but it's really, really, really hard for so many people, and especially so many misconceptions and delusions around what forgiveness is. So it's no surprise that, you know, it gets misconstrued as like a band-aid we put on shadows to like, it was okay, everything's okay now, you know, that's good. It's okay what you did. Everything's for a reason. That's a really bitter place to be at when you have to work with forgiveness in that way. Like, it's shadow work, and it is not. It's really about pulling back all the layers and loving yourself inside there, and for forgiving yourself, right? Finally, I want to touch really quickly, because I am pushing an hour and I don't want this video to be too long. Breath work is huge in energy alchemy and in moving stagnant energy and in getting your physical vessel in in alignment with your energetic vessel and your spiritual vessel. We can use breath work to empower us. We can use breath work to cool down intense emotions. You can use breath work to relax, to get you to go to sleep. You can use breath work, as ground in the moment. So a couple of really great visualizations with breath work that I love is, first and foremost, breathing in clarity or wisdom, new energy, sparkling light from out there, breathing it into my vessel and taking it in. And the exhale will be staleness, cloudy. See it as like car exhaust coming out, like all of these really carbon-based chains of hard things stuck together with these real rigid edges, right? They can come out on the out breath. You can pull in love, support, and breathe into certain areas too. If you're using shadow work for chronic pain or for stored blockage, like your heart center is really closed off and you feel a lot of pain, or your sacral chakra is like super out of whack, and so you have a lot of problems going on, in your lower abdomen or in your sexual organs or whatever, you can just breathe in understanding, support, nutrients. You could see it as liveliness, hydration, high vibes, whatever you want, sparkling glitter from fairyland. It's personally what works with you. And if it's, say, like your chest and your heart center's closed off and you feel like you've had a lot of trauma and you're caged, you can breathe into that, and each breath is like just loosening just a small amount or just bringing in a looseness, right? You can use breath as especially for intense emotions that you have that are really like strong. You can breathe on coals, and I love that vision, especially when I have a lot of anger or aggravation, irritation, that kind of like frustrated feelings. To see inside the like stomach area, or even outside of you, whatever, and you can envision in different ways. Embers, coals sitting there and like burning, and each breath out is like lighting those coals up, and maybe the coals are like the whole situation of what's really made you angry, and you're breathing in oxygen, cool oxygen, to blow on this hot coals and see them really burning up and blazing themselves, and you can use that calming, cool air, into either burn up or cool down. Different workings are different ways with this coal visualization. But yeah, you can breathe on it, make it into a fire if you like to, and burn all of that up and send it up into source, or cast it down into Mother Earth, release it back to wherever it came from, into the ether, say. You can watch it turn to ashes, put those ashes in a box and send them to source, or bury them in the earth. Or, some people, like to get really intricate into it and do a whole fire ceremony kind of around that. And that can be so beneficial too. The shamanic journeys and ceremonies and these things, they're so beautiful and intricate, and they have such a great role in shadow work when we get to intermediate and alchemy levels, when you start to not just be doing internal shadow work, but we start to look at external shadow work as well, working at that level, learning shamanic practices or kundalini practices, or you know, whatever, there's just so many templates out there that you can get into to help alchemize and clean and clear, cleanse. But yeah, the breathing techniques are huge to help out with energy. Breath of fire, which is like a passive inhale and a quick exhale, right out the nose like that, but out your nose, you know. That can be a great breath when you're aggravated to kind of like get that energy at least moving, because a lot of times we get aggravated about things, especially something out of your control that's not even like directly influencing you, but you've allowed it to get those wheels of aggravation and frustration going. That breath of fire, doing that for a couple minutes can really like work through that and get you to loosen it up. And then when you're done and you can relax your breath, more clarity comes in, a calmness comes in. You're like, wow, why was I so out there, you know, wrapped up in this? Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to close out here, and pushing on an hour. So thank you so much if you have watched this whole video. I really hope no beginners out there are super confused or put off, or, you know, going to be getting themselves into jumping into the deep end with no swimmies on here. So right at the end, I'm going to reiterate self-assessment, understanding where you're at, accepting where you're at, and doing this, just the small daily things that are within your means. You know, don't feel rushed to have to get everything done at once. If you do, recognize that and go back and remind yourself that's your low-hanging fruit right now, right? There is no deadlines, there is no finish line. You know, settle into the present moment. So thank you so much for joining me with this video for intermediate and alchemy level practices, visualizations for shadow work. I think, like I said earlier in the video, I will do a follow-up video for like alchemy level working. So I hope you'll find me, you know, next time for that. In the meantime, you can always find me on Telegram. A. Marie Speaks over there, doing, you know, daily positivity infographics and things to kind of break up the negativity of the matrix. Or you can find me directly on my website, amariespeaks.com. And right, if you're totally interested in shadow work and you want to get into things, over on my tools page, I have a whole category called shadow work, and you can click right on that. It will bring you to a page that offers, you know, tips, tools, little ways to get started, videos, books, all types of things that are strictly about shadow work. So yeah, if you're ready to get going, you can check out over there as well. So I hope you have a beautiful day or evening wherever in the world you are. Thank you again so much for joining me, and I'll catch you next time.